Hi, my name is Sierra, and I developed a disgusting condition that completely ruined my life. But before I begin, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, or your whole room will smell as bad as I do. Now, I don't want to sound condescending when I say this, but I'm pretty. Like really, really pretty. From the time I started school, I knew that. My mom entered me in beauty pageants from when I was 5 years old, and I won almost every single one. But in school, there was this girl named Monica who was the leader of the girls, and she was not a nice person. She was gorgeous and dangerous. Honestly, I was scared of her, but for years I saw how she treated and humiliated people she didn't like, so I knew I had to be on her good side. I made fun of people with her. I helped her pull pranks on the nerdy kids in our class, and when we got into middle school, I did even worse things with her. We would hide other girls' clothes when they changed for gym class. We would spread rumors about the girls having crushes on popular guys. One time, we picked on this poor girl named Audrey. Really, I had no problem with Audrey. I thought she was really smart and nice, but Monica hated her. So she made me pull this prank with her. We told her that one of the popular boys liked her, and she should ask him to go to the school dance with her. When she asked the boy in front of everyone, he laughed in her face. She ran out of the room crying. Everyone was laughing at her, and I joined in. But inside, I felt really sad. How could I do this to her? I tried to go up and talk to Audrey after, but I couldn't bring myself to. I was so ashamed that I had been a part of that. For a couple of weeks, I felt terrible about it. And when I was in 7th grade, I had guys asking for my number left and right. Even some 8th graders were winking at me in the hall. But there was only one I was interested in, Micah. He was a tall and handsome skateboarder, and he was seriously everything I ever wanted in a guy. And one Friday afternoon, he asked if I wanted to go to a party with him and his friends on Saturday. I played it cool and told him I'd be there, but inside, I was losing it. I wanted to do a backflip. I wanted to set off fireworks that spelled out yes. That night, I blasted music and danced around my room while I picked out my outfit. I thought that Saturday was going to be the best day of my life. I would go to my very first party and kiss Micah. I woke up the next morning. Something felt wrong. My whole room smelled like rotting fish. As soon as I opened my eyes, I sat up and gagged at the smell. It was so bad, I was convinced my cat had to have dragged a dead animal in there or something. I looked under the bed, in the closet, and under all my clothes on the floor trying to find the source of the smell, but there wasn't anything. Then I walked into the hall to ask my mom for help. I swear, it seemed like the smell was following me. It was so deep in my nose, I felt like I was never going to be able to get it out. When my mom came into the room, she looked like she was about to puke. She helped me look around, but neither of us could find the source of the smell. My mom figured a poor animal had just gotten caught in the pipes or something. So I went to go shower to make sure the smell wasn't in my hair or anything. Even after the weird mishap, I was humming and singing, super excited for the party that night. But when I got out of the shower, I could still smell it. The whole room should have smelled like roses and lilacs, but it smelled like rotten, disgusting fish. When I lifted my arms to tie my hair up, it was even worse. It was so bad, I felt like I was gonna pass out. Then a horrible realization hit me. I leaned in, putting my nose beside my armpit, and my world came crashing down. The smell wasn't my room, it was me. I smelled my arm, my hand even my legs. And I realized every single inch of me smelled like a dump truck. I immediately ran to the shower again. I lathered on every single soap and body scrub I owned. I seriously scrubbed my skin until it was bright red. After about an hour, I got out, convinced I had solved the problem. Except I hadn't. I hadn't solved the problem at all. Now I smelled like a pineapple, coconut, lilac, rose, lavender, fish sandwich. In a panic, not knowing what to do, I ran out to tell my mom the smell was me. She took one whiff of me and looked like she wanted to die. She told me she'd take me to the doctors to see what was going on, and I started crying. I didn't want to go to the doctor's office. I wanted to go to the party. My mom scheduled an appointment for Monday and told me that I could borrow one of her strongest perfumes for the party. She told me the kids probably wouldn't notice anyway, and for some stupid reason, I believed her. When I showed up at the party, I looked great, but I smelled like an old lady. I kept telling myself at least I didn't smell like fish. For about an hour or so, things were okay. Monica made fun of me for smelling like her grandma, but I brushed it off by telling her the perfume was one of a kind from Paris, and she stopped making fun of me. I started getting close to Micah, and I was practically in heaven. He was so cute. I felt like my heart was gonna explode. We sat by a bonfire and talked and laughed, but soon people started asking what the horrible smell was. People were covering their noses, and I did the same, but it only made it worse for me. My sweaty hands smelled like a fish market. I kept up the facade for a while, but people were getting really uncomfortable. They looked around, trying to find someone or something to blame the smell on. The more they looked, the more nervous I got, and the worse the smell was. In my panic, I ran to the bathroom. I tried to wash my armpits in the sink, and I piled on the random perfumes and creams that I found in the cabinet. But when I walked out of the bathroom, everyone from the party was standing in the hallway. The minute I left, the smell went away, and they knew. I tried to say it wasn't me, but Monica rolled her eyes. She knew better. Micah was standing right there, watching it all happen, and he was covering his nose and mouth in disgust. I felt the tears starting to form in my eyes. Monica shoved me back in the bathroom and held the door shut, telling me to take a shower. I could hear absolutely everyone giggling, and my heart sank. This couldn't be happening. I tried to open the door, and eventually I gave up and climbed through the window. I called my mom to pick me up. I spent the next day in bed crying. My mom tried to comfort me, but I could see that she could hardly stand sitting beside me because I smelled so bad. That day, I stood in the shower for 4 hours until my skin was practically screaming. We strolled into the doctor's office the next morning, and everyone waiting in the office looked disgusted with my smell. I wanted to crawl into a hole and disappear, but even that wasn't as bad as what happened next. The doctor completely blew me off. I was in tears, telling him how much my condition was affecting me, and he laughed and told me to just take better care of my body. I had heard that some doctors were bad, but I had never encountered anyone that was that ignorant before. And unfortunately, I believed him. Before school the next morning, I got up at 3 a.m. so I could soak in the bath and take 3 showers. By the time I was finished, the water was running ice cold. When I got to school, it became obvious that what I had done hadn't worked. Every single person I walked by said, "Ew," and covered their noses. I put my hood up over my head, wishing I could just disappear. In one of the small classrooms, my teacher had to open a window. When that didn't work, she asked me to go out into the hall. She told me I needed to go sit in the office to do my work. If you're not going to take care of yourself, you can't sit in this class and distract everyone. When I tried to explain why I smelled, she ignored me. Instead of going to the principal's office, I just stormed home. I watched my social media light up with memes and jokes about how gross I was. People were saying I didn't shower. People were even saying crazy stuff like my dad was actually a fish person. I decided I couldn't go to school anymore. My mom told me I had to, but I refused and laid in bed all day. She decided to put me in an educational program at a small private school nearby. It was only a few hours every day, and then the rest of my work would be online. I knew when I got there, everyone would hate me. And when I walked inside, I was almost sure they would, because I saw Audrey, the girl Monica and I had picked on, sitting there. Everyone else covered their noses when I walked in, but Audrey just smiled at me. During our lunch break, I asked Audrey when she had come here. It turns out in 6th grade, the bullying had gotten so bad she decided to leave. I apologized for being mean to her, and she just shrugged, telling me it was in the past. I was so confused why she didn't react to my smell. And then she told me something that made everything make sense. Her allergies were acting up. She was the only person who would talk to me, the only person who would get close to me. And I knew I had to keep her around. I missed people so badly. I found out she was allergic to tree pollen. I'm not proud of what I did next, but every morning I ran out into the woods and shook trees and wiped their leaves down, collecting as much pollen as I could. When she wasn't looking, I rubbed the pollen on her desk, on her bag, even on her jacket. For weeks, her eyes were puffy and red, but we were becoming great friends. Even after everything I had put her through, we were growing really close, and I felt terrible that I was making her sick. How could I do this to someone who cared about me? I thought back to what everyone else treated me like, and my heart sank. I couldn't afford to lose my only friend. So I kept rubbing pollen all over her stuff every chance I got. One time, she asked me why my hands were all yellow and I changed the subject. I knew I couldn't keep this up forever. Audrey was even saying her parents wanted to move her somewhere without so much pollen so she wouldn't be sick. When Audrey started inviting me to her house, I knew I'd have to go eventually. I was afraid her parents would smell me and ask why I smelled so bad. I was so scared to be embarrassed again. So I kept telling her I was busy. For a while, it worked okay. I could tell she was upset, but I was getting out of it. Then my birthday came. I walked outside of school and Audrey was waiting with balloons on a car. Her and her dad were gonna take me to a water park. They had set it up with my mom as a surprise. I started freaking out, saying I didn't feel well, and Audrey told me she'd take me home at least. Logically, I should have just gotten in the car, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. I sprinted down into the woods, running away from her and her dad. A ways into the woods, I just plopped down. I was crying too hard to keep running. I felt so ashamed of my smell, so ashamed of what was going on with me. I didn't even notice Audrey and her dad coming towards me until it was too late. I knew I was caught, so I just exploded. I told them everything. I smelled like fish constantly, and I was the reason Audrey was sick. I begged her dad not to move her away, and I begged Audrey to stay friends with me. I was shocked when her dad leaned down and told me he was a doctor. I had nothing to be ashamed of. I wasn't dirty or diseased. I just had a condition called trimethylaminuria. It was really rare, so a lot of doctors didn't understand it. I had never felt so relieved in my life. To my surprise, Audrey wasn't mad. She knew how cruel people could be, but she told me I should know by now that she was my friend and didn't care about things like that. I felt such a weight off my shoulders. Audrey's dad helped me to my feet and we went off to the water park for my birthday. He didn't even say anything about my smell. I've learned so much about friendship and kindness because of my condition. People who are mean to others might be mean to you when you need them most. In the end, people who don't care about my condition are the ones I need in my life. Now I am older, and I live above a fish market, so the whole street smells like fish, and not only me, so I am having the best time of my life.